RPG Lessons Learned. When the game is over, when your players are gone, that's when lessons are learned. Find us online at rpgllpodcast.com, email us at rpgllpodcast@gmail.com, and find us on Blue Sky at rpgll. Hi, welcome to RPG Lessons Learned. My name is Dusty, and I'm here with Tanner. Hi, Tanner.
Hello, Dusty. How are you?
I am superb, all the more so since we just finished a game, our third game of Cyberpunk RED.
Yeah, possibly our final one for now. We kind of set out I wanted to run 3 sessions. We did the beginner session, we did a published adventure, and then we ended on an adventure that I wrote. So it feels good, even though, I don't know, it might be stretching the definition of a campaign, but it's something, right?
It's something. I enjoyed it. I played 3 characters, each working for the same fixer. And I got to interact with one of my own characters this session, which was a high point for me.
Awesome. Cool. I love to hear that. So, before we get started, let's just talk about kind of the story of the session so people can follow it. So the story of the session was that your character works for Laszlo, who was screwed over by a mysterious figure named Aurora. You found out that another fixer named Rogue was employing Aurora, and she made you an offer, and she said, hey, if you turn on Laszlo and get me his data, you'll be in my good graces. And you decided not to. You decided to stay loyal to Laszlo, and Aurora and Rogue and her minions went after you while you defended the data vault.
So let's start there. Was your intention that I have this choice and that I would have either been attacking or defending the map that you chose?
Absolutely. And the great thing is that if you chose to defend against her edge runners, the people in her employ, if you would have been attacking, you would have had to fight and kill Torch in 24/7. Your previous 2 characters. Maybe not 24/7, because before you made your decision in this session, you went and talked to him and you made a pretty good bond. But Torch, definitely you would have had to fight your previous character.
But your plan was Torch and 24/7.
Yep, and Laszlo. Yep.
So first of all, as the person who set up this scenario, do you feel I made, quote unquote, the right moral choice? Or do you think I would have been equally justified in taking out my fixer?
That's a great question. I kind of left a lot of that up to you. You asked me several times, like, what is my relationship with Laszlo? And I kind of gave you wishy-washy answers because I wanted it to feel like your decision and not me influencing it. You came to the conclusion that he had done bad things in the past that would warrant someone wanting to take him out. But your character, it seemed like, felt like he was always good to you. So you kind of tried to live and let live. Am I right? Is that kind of how you arrived to that conclusion?
The moment I made the decision was when I was talking to 24/7, and I was like, the people I'm dealing with are the same people that tried to kill you too 24/7.
Yep.
That was the moment where I was like, nope, not doing it.
Do you think I should have given you a better reason to turn on Laszlo?
No, I was so tempted to turn on Laszlo. It felt like where you wanted the session to go. And a lot of times as a good player, a trait of a good player is not completely, but mostly going where the GM wants you to go and going toward where the session has been prepared. So I kept asking you, like, I really don't want to do this. I'm tempted to break away. Is it going to break your story? But I felt this overwhelming pressure to turn on Laszlo because it felt like that's where the mission was going.
Gotcha. So it was more of like an out of game pressure rather than like the logic of the world.
I really felt like you'd prepped the session of me learning more about Laszlo and uncovering Laszlo's dirty past, and I was about to ruin that.
Gotcha.
I'm relieved that I didn't. I'm happy that you'd prepared it either way. And I felt really free to make the decision once you said I'm good either way.
Awesome. Well, yeah, and I think, I mean, we've talked about this a million times, and before I was on this show, you guys talked about it a million times, that metagaming questions and answers are healthy for the game. You, out of game, asked me, Tanner, are you prepped for both of these things? And I said, make your decision. I'm cool with either way. And I think that made, once you had that comfort, I feel like it made the game flow a lot better.
It is funny. I felt the sense of relief. Like it's funny how quickly loyalty can build with this, NPC who arguably underpays his employees. But I feel like I know Laszlo. I feel like I've worked for Laszlo, and I feel like it's not a good character trait to turn on the people that you work with at the prompting of nothing but a fairly flimsy story and no proof.
Yeah. So speaking of character stuff, you wanted to talk about the background and the life path system in this, right?
Every session we've played, each of the 3 sessions, we have rolled the life path for the 3. It's not the beginner box, Tanner. What's it called?
Easy mode.
Easy mode, where these characters came from. So 24/7, Torch, and what's this character's name? Mover. All 3 of those are characters from easy mode. And we rolled a life path for each one of those, which really helped me. I didn't always follow it perfectly, but it helped me connect with each one of the characters at the start of the session, which I think is important, especially in a one-shot.
Yeah, for sure. I think it gives you just enough of a prompt, and I think it takes a GM who doesn't care if you stray from it, right? Me and you have an understanding that you're going to be using it as a jumping off point. And even though your character might be shy, it doesn't mean you're like a slave to that in terms of like interacting with a key encounter. And if you feel a certain way in a certain moment, I'm going to let you play that, as long as it's not too crazy, right? So like, I think it's healthy to use it as a jump. I mean, it's a life path, right? It's who your character was, but we're playing to figure out what they're doing now, right?
Agree. It's a valuable tool, and the life path is a tool that Cyberpunk RED gives you to kind of establish your character. I like it. I think it's a great feature of the system.
And I think it's in the easy mode, the beginner box, as we say in our parlance. I think it's in that for a reason. I think like they know the value of it. You know what I mean? They know that it's a cool little mechanic, and I mean, God, they devote like it's a 48-page document. They devote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of it, 6 pages to it. So I think they know the value of it in terms of word count.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the session itself. This was a really combat heavy session. I had originally, when we hung up last time, said I really wanted to play hacking. I really wanted to do net running and try out net running. And you researched that and you came back and you were like, hey, Dusty, net running is a whole different system. It's going to be really difficult to prep. Do you mind if we didn't do that? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Let's do something different. And you chose instead to have our first like really serious tactical combat on a map, on a grid, on Roll20. Not the first time I've done it, but the first time in years I've done it.
Same.
And I feel like I really wanted to experience what Cyberpunk RED, I keep wanting to say 2020, had to offer. And I think the tactical combat was just as valuable because I like the YouTuber Seth Skorkowski. He talked about Cyberpunk a lot, and he talks about combat and tactical combat a lot. So I think I got what I wanted, which was another flavor of how Cyberpunk RED is and feels to play, even though I didn't get the net running. So the tactical combat, I think, was fantastic.
Yeah, and we haven't really done a lot of tactical combat. We've played a ton of OSR dungeon crawling games, but I feel like we were just trying to our steps in dungeon crawling were abstracting the dungeon as fast as possible. You know what I mean? Like we haven't been on a grid doing stuff, and to some people, that's not the type of game that they love to play. But man, after a long time, it felt fun, man.
I've got to compliment you. You did an awesome job. You said this during the session. You chose a map, and there was so much cool stuff on the map. You were like, we have to interact with this. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I bought this map. I paid real money for it from a site called 2 Minute Tabletop, and I cannot recommend them enough. It's like a couple of artists who do this, and they make these awesome battle maps, and it was like $2 or $5 or something. And what it did is it also came with a bunch of assets that I could put on the map. So the listener can't see this, but Dusty, if you're still looking at the figure, like the server farm, these like computers and monitors and stuff were like extra things that I put on the map as like a new layer. So like they ship these things ready for Roll20, and it's awesome. So I made this map, and I basically gave you a little bit of time beforehand saying, this is what you're going to be defending. do what you got to do, make some preparations, and you made some cool tactical decisions about blocking off certain entrances, funneling the enemies in one at a time, and I think it worked out for you pretty well. And then, yeah, talking about the props on the map. So I wanted you to have fun with net running. And I felt like the best way to do that was to have a net runner buddy that would do what you told him to do. So in this session, we had Roach, who was a net runner who would follow you around, and he could interact with things in the environment. So what he did during this session is you had him like start a car and ram into somebody in this old garage. You had him like swing a big crane arm and drop a crate on somebody, which was awesome. So I think there is something to be said about a rich map, like prompting player activity from the things they see on it. You know what I mean?
And it proves to me that variety is the spice of life. Like, you and I have spent episodes and episodes talking about the virtues of abstracting, to your earlier point, a dungeon, and how wonderful it felt to be freed from the grid. And now here we are playing this game, and you made a comment during play that, I'm a 4E guy. And I was a 4E guy. 4E is how I spent the first several years of my role-playing life, role-playing, GMing, 4th edition, and it really tickled the 4E lizard brain tactics that I haven't touched in a while. So it was wonderful to abstract a dungeon and be freed from the grid, and then it was wonderful to get back on the grid. It just goes to show you, like, there's no one way to play, even for two people who like to play. Variety is the spice of life, man.
Yeah, and I think it helped too. It should be said that you were a character who was a combat character, and you had two guns, and each one of them had like disadvantages and advantages, and there was a choice to be made of like, what weapon am I attacking with? Where are the enemies? This, that, and the other thing. So like, I think that that definitely helped. So I was actually really nervous going into this session. I thought this session would be a dud, honestly, because all I knew was that it was going to be a choice at the beginning, maybe some role play, and then an extended pair of combat encounters. One big combat encounter, really. So I don't know. It felt risky at the time, but I'm glad it paid off. But I don't know if I'd prepare it again the same way. You know what I mean? But it filled out a session pretty nicely.
It worked out beautifully. I enjoyed every bit of it. I felt a little bit of trepidation at first. I felt like, oh no, I'm taking too long with the role play. I'm really making Tanner work for this as I struggle with this moral choice. I'm really making Tanner suffer through this. But knowing that that's all the role play, and then the tactical combat, it was super fun. I think this session was an absolute banger of a session.
Awesome. So is there anything else that you want to talk about with this session? Because I kind of want to talk about the game and our games as a whole.
Yeah, your mastery of Roll20. Let's talk about the fact that I was annoyed at Roll20 because I kept having to like open my character sheet so I could click the shotgun button or the assault rifle button, and then close my character sheet so I could see the map, and then open my character sheet to evade the monomolecular sword, and then close my character sheet to see the map. And then you were like, "Hey, Dusty, there's a pop out button on the character sheet. You can make that a new window, pal." Roll20 impressed me this session. I had been previously annoyed at it, but I was annoyed at it because I didn't understand it, and I didn't know about that pop the character sheet out feature.
Like any tool, I think it has a enormous potential to empower you to do what you want to do. Like this, if I were to show up to your house and run this session on a whiteboard or on a battle map with dungeon tiles, it would have been so much more fiddly than this. You know what I mean? Like Roll20 empowered us to have this awesome encounter map that we got to play with. But at the same time, like any tool, you got to know how to use it, right? And once I taught Grandma here how to check her email, everything went well. If you have the screen real estate for it, it's all good. Dusty's laughing really hard.
I love that. That is hilarious. Am I 10 years older than you, or more than 10 years?
I think 10, maybe more.
I do want to tease the listeners with this. I think, unless one of us gets sick, Tanner and I are about to meet each other in person for the first time here in a little over a week.
It's true. Maybe we're gonna hopefully plan to go to my awesome local game store and get some hot dogs.
We'll let you, the audience, know if we meet in person and the vibes are off and we suddenly hate each other.
The vibes. That's hilarious. So, let's talk about this campaign. So, now that you've had some time to percolate on the first two sessions, can you give me a rating 1 to 10 of each of these three sessions? 5 average.
The first was good. The first was really good. Really enjoyed the first one.
Really? I thought we remember it didn't feel like Cyberpunk.
It didn't, but it was modern and it wasn't. I don't know. Maybe my memory has been colored. I felt more awkward about the second sessions what I'm building up to.
Okay.
So I guess what I'm saying is, like, if I was doing a 1 to 10 where I'm grading on a curve and one of them has to be a 1 and one of them has to be a 10.
You don't have to do that.
Okay, but let's say I was doing that. The middle session would be a 1. The first session would be a 5, like middle of the curve, and this session would be a 10.
Wow.
If I'm not grading on a curve and I'm just giving like flat numeric scores, then I would say the first session was 6.5. It was a good session. It was guns, which we hadn't done. It wasn't tactical, but it was Roll20 and getting a feel for Roll20. I enjoyed it. It was better than average. Second session was a 5, and that's mostly because of me. My choice to like shoot the cops was weird, and then there wound up being this one skill, like tech something or other, that I used over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So I feel like the second session was a 5, and that was more me than you. I just made some choices that like I was misreading the world.
Yeah.
And then this session, I think, is a much more solid, like 8. Was it perfect? No, I did have some trepidation about tripping you up. I do wish that I have regrets. Like I wish, I don't know, the 3 booster gangers that you gave me to work with, I wish I had done more with them.
Yeah.
But I mean, they did do some stuff that was neat, but it wasn't a perfect session, but it was a solid, great session. I mean, an 8 is a great session.
You've been very kind to me, and everything that you said negative has all been directed at yourself. I want you to give me some brass tacks. Like, how would you improve this session? Now, if this is the first draft, this is the screenplay I submitted to you. Like, what would you do in terms of GMing differently?
I would have made it clear right away. You did eventually make it clear that you were prepped either way.
Okay.
I would have made it clear right away that you were prepped either way.
Just like out of game?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That way I didn't feel like my role play was constrained by not wanting to screw up the GM's prep.
Mm-hmm.
That would have made me a little more free to role play. Now, I mean, some anxiety is good, but I would have changed that. That takes maybe a point of the 2 points off. What else would I have changed?
Did the combat feel like it had enough like variety, or is it just kind of like a lot of dudes shooting at each other in a warehouse?
It felt a lot easier.
Yeah.
Why did it feel easy? I'm sitting here. I expected 2 full waves. I think your second wave should have had maybe not another full mover, but I think one more NPC in the second wave.
Stuff. Yeah.
If it was 2 waves of 3, I felt like that. The first wave, like, I didn't take a lot of damage because I made a smart decision about how to divide and conquer and block off like half the entrances with one block.
Agreed.
The second wave, I think, should have been a little more difficult, and I would have liked it if I had less health at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But combat is so swingy and stuff to get a read on that. I would have added 1 NPC.
Okay.
That's my feedback for this session.
Gotcha. And I don't feel too bad about that because I literally didn't know how this combat was going to go. And honestly, if you would have died in a blaze of glory trying to defend this, I think that would have been a good story too, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So yeah, no harm, no foul on that. So I appreciate that feedback. I think with combat, man, with one-on-one games, how many times have we learned that I just need to be harder on you?
We have. And maybe the secret is maybe you should have had 2 NPCs in reserve.
Yeah. I always feel weird about doing that because I feel like that kind of leads and maybe this isn't being fair to myself or other people who prep this way, but like I always feel like that's like one step away from like the quantum ogre problem, you know what I mean? In that no matter what decision you make, the next like it feels a little bit too to me, it makes sense that she had 3 edge runners, they came at you, you killed them. As opposed to she had 3 to 5, depending on how much fun Dusty's having. You know what I mean? That always feels weird to me. And I know I would bet most people run their games like that, but it's always felt weird to me. And judging by your laughter, I hope it would feel weird to you too.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm sitting here thinking about it.
Like, to me, my goal is not necessarily to give you the most fun roller coaster edge of your seat, get you down to 1 HP type of game. Like, my goal is to present the situation, and what happens. You know what I mean? And I try to let the chips fall where they may a lot of times, but maybe I'm doing that too much at the expense of like the game being good.
Here's how I think you could have managed it without the Quantum Ogre. I think you should have had one more mover. I think the second wave should have been the Netrunner Aurora and the other mover, with Rogue herself taking a much more conservative role. And I think I would have felt a lot of frustration if things had gone south and Rogue had beaten feet and gotten away. I'd have been like, oh man, that insert word that rhymes with witch.
Yeah, that would have been pretty good. And then I could have left it kind of open for a follow-up session if we wanted to do that. Yeah. Okay. That's cool. I'm glad I was able to bounce that idea off you. Should we render our final verdict about the system as of right now? Final after 3 sessions with the incomplete rules?
Yeah, I feel like this is the best session with this. I feel like I'm actually going to rate it pretty highly.
I think so too. I think it's a good 7 out of 10 for me. There's a couple things that are a little bit fiddly, and I would rate very few games and not 8 or 9 or 10 out of 10. So 7 is good for me. There's a couple things that, like having to check a table every time you shoot. Luckily, Roll20 does this for you in like the chat log, but like the difficulty value being determined based on what weapon you have and how far away they are from you, like that's a little fiddly for me. I still don't like the cover system, the cover being just a bag of HP. I would definitely like house rule that if I were to run this, but like overall, I think it's like pretty good. 7 out of 10 for me.
I'm going to go higher. I'm going to go 8 out of 10, and I'm going to argue your points. I like the table. If it weren't for the table, we wouldn't have had the realization that the assault rifle is actually harder up close.
Oh, that's true.
Which created a lot of the fun of the session.
Yeah.
So I think the table is necessary. And I think also, if you think about complexity, I'm playing a lot of BX right now, BX D&D with Martin in Martin's game.
Must have missed my invite, but okay.
Yeah, I know. But there's a similar thing where like a short bow, you get like a +2. I'm making this up. I can't remember the exact rules, but it's something like if you're inside of 25 feet, you get a +2. If you're within 30 feet, you get a +1. If you're whatever, you get a 0. If you're whatever, you get a -1. There's actually a similar table kind of built into even basic D&D. So I think the concept of the table exists, and I love that the table gives us the shotgun being great up close and terrible far away, and the assault rifle being great far away and terrible up close.
So really, the assault rifle is like good at like mid range. It's a kind of an interesting curve. Yeah. So I agree. I do think it adds some texture to the game that is good. And I just wish there was a better way to, I don't know. Like, I feel like sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but like, I feel like the trend of like roll a die and consult a chart is a very old school type of game. And like the beauty of stuff like, I don't know, like modern D&D is that like you don't need to look up every time you roll. You know what I mean? Of like, what does this die roll mean? So it's a little bit of a throwback, but it's really not a huge deal, but I just side eye it a little bit.
That's fair. The cover rules, I have not liked them up until this game.
Interesting.
In this game, when I realized I should move every turn.
Oh.
I should not take one spot in cover. I should constantly be moving. I should constantly be, because I don't want to say in real life, because I've obviously never been and hope to never be in a gunfight, and I have zero understanding of what a gunfight's like. But in
Gears of War too.
Yes. In first-person shooters, you die very quickly if you stand still and trust your cover to save you. And you're constantly moving to catch your enemies out of cover. Mm-hmm. The tactical map made the cover rules make more sense because it made me move more.
Yeah.
I would have felt like I was gaming the system real bad if we had no tactical map and I move so that he's no longer in cover, but I'm still in cover.
Right. Yeah, I think that that's fair. I do think that the map makes cover justify itself. I still think that it's kind of fiddly to like realize this spot of cover has taken 8 damage and this spot of cover has taken 12 damage. You know, I wish there was a like if I were to do it, I would say something like cover subtracts a d6 from your roll, but then it's destroyed forever or something like that. Like something to really keep it moving and have less bookkeeping about it would be my goal, but I am glad that it's in the game.
I would literally go so metagamey as to have rules for grid cover and gridless cover, like tactical cover and theater of mind cover. Tactical cover would work exactly as it does in the game. Theater of mind cover would be like, I don't know, a -5 to both attack and damage.
Yeah, something like that would be good. Yeah, because that would keep things moving, and you wouldn't have to play the Mother May I game of like, Tanner, are you imagining the same thing I am? That he's kind of in cover this way, but not this way, and me being like, no, I'm not imagining that. Like that whole back and forth is something you never really want to have at a table, I think.
That's true.
But yeah, I like that. So yeah, maybe some little hacks and house rules. That's kind of all I got. I mean, like, what do you think? Would you play this again? Would you would you feel like running it?
Back to variety, spice of life. Yeah, I might play it. I might run it. I think it'd be interesting to try out a different futuristic cyberpunk style game. Perhaps the classic Shadowrun, despite all the rumors I hear about how terrible it is.
I'm not playing Shadowrun with you, Dusty. I'm sorry.
Fair. There's other games like
Sprawl,
Crescendo of Violence. Yeah, I would. Ooh. I've never actually played Blades in the Dark, which feels like a futuristic cyberpunk heisty type game.
It is, yeah. The last time we played something approaching that was Bloodstone. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we'd have to figure that out. But yeah, so open to it again, but we're looking for more variety for the next game for us.
I'm enjoying this whole trying out different systems thing.
Yeah, and this is I've never played it before this, a cyberpunk genre game. It's a system I wanted to play for a while. It's a world that I think is cool, and I got no regrets. Big thumbs up for these couple of sessions.
Same, great game.
See you on the next one.
People call them reviews, postmortems, retrospectives. We call them lessons learned, and we're sharing ours with you.